Hiya, I'm Felicia, and for the last 2 weeks I've been posting videos on here documenting a heartbreaking journey through our healthcare system. I've been highlighting some of the systemic issues I've faced in the hope of bringing urgent intervention for myself, but to raise awareness about these issues, to highlight the importance of patient safety and prevent harm coming to others. This is my final video, and this is an incredibly personal video because it's my statement to the medical fraternity, the people I've been dealing with for the last 12 years. You know, for the last 12 years, you've not listened to anything I have said. You've shooed me away like I'm some kind of retrograde. But I'm simply asking you for 10 minutes of your time to listen to where I'm at with this, because I don't think you understand the impact that your behaviour and your actions have had on me. And this is a long overdue chance for me to tell you how you have impacted my life, but also to make a request to you for some much urgent and much long-awaited closure. You know, I will never understand, never, how this has happened. I don't think you know. I think my story has become so endemic now that when my name flashes up in the system or a new referral comes through, it's like a default switch goes on and it's just shut down. And I think there's also safety in numbers with you all. I think you know there's so many of you and there's one of me, that it's okay for you to keep doing this. You know, in life, we can never control other people. We can't control their behaviour, their decisions, their choices, or their actions. We only have control over our own behaviour, actions and decisions. I can't stop you doing what you're doing. I can't stop you ignoring abnormal pathology. I can't stop you refusing referrals, speaking horribly to me, gaslighting me, closing down my file. These are choices that you are making. I have no power to stop you doing this. I can't force your hand to treat this condition I've got. In equal light, I cannot live with this pain anymore. In the last 2 years, it's got progressively worse, particularly around the left side of my head. It feels like there's a screwdriver being screwed into my top of my head consistently. And the pain in my head has changed in nature. It's now sinister, and I have wondered at points if it's no longer benign. I think there's a big chance that the soft tissue of my head is now permanently damaged, but we won't know until someone tells me that. But I know I cannot live with this pain. Both my parents lived to 78, so I'm 51. I can't do another 27 years of this. And I can't keep coming to appointments and having you shut the door in my face time and time again, bullying me. It's made me go, it will make me go insane, and I don't want that. In 2021, I decided that walking away from this was the best option for me. Not just from the pain, but from you, and from this merry-go-round that I've been on for 12 years, going through referrals and rejections. And it was actually quite a liberating moment when I realised I didn't have to do this anymore, that I could walk away. In life, when there's a relationship and one person has erected this iron wall that you have, and you keep banging your head into it, you wouldn't keep banging, you would choose to walk away, right? Well, in 2021, I thought I want to walk away from this, but because I can't live with the pain, the only way I came up with was to request an assisted suicide, which I did. In 2021, I made an application to Dignified to prepare an accompanied suicide for me. And I made this application on the grounds of unbearable and uncontrollable pain. Now, in order for Dignified to meet the legal prerequisites to administer this lethal drug that they give to end your life, they need evidence that my condition is not controllable. And they have asked me to get a report written by a clinician to confirm what's been done to get me out of this pain. Am I receiving state-of-the-art treatment? No. But what has been done, and is my condition controllable? Additionally, because I have declared that I'm in a serious mental health crisis, they've asked for a psychiatrist to confirm that I'm of sound mind to make this judgment to end my life. I've asked 3 or 4 clinicians in the UK to write this report. Some of them have laughed out loud in my face. An ENT consultant at NHS 5 thought it was hilarious that I'd made this application. I can still hear the sound of his cackle. But effectively, I can't get this report. I've asked 3 psychiatrists at Tees, Esk and Wears Valleys. They've all said no. The last one I saw at Cross Lane Hospital said, I'm not going to sign that off because I don't want you to die. I want you to improve your situation. But he's not proposing any way to improve my situation. He just told me to get re-referred back. So it's an act of cowardice. So here's where I'm at. You can't have it both ways. You can't ignore this condition that I've got, which is what you're doing, and ask me to endure it and be tortured for the rest of my life. What I'm saying to you is, I would love it if you would yield and start treating me like a human being and talking to me and telling me the truth, but I can't force you to do that. So if you choose to continue to play cowboys and Indians and gaslight me and ignore all the pathology, that's fine, fill your boots. But not on my clock. I want an end to this, a dignified end. So I'm asking if you won't yield and you won't take down your defences and let me through and tell me what is causing this pain and what can be done and what can't be done. Obviously, I would like that. But if you're not prepared to do that, then I'm asking you let me go. See what I mean? It's just fair. It's like being face down in a ditch with blood all over you and flies around you. I'm just saying, look, it's not very nice in here. I'd like a bit of dignity. Can you help me go somewhere a bit more dignified? That's all I'm asking. And I'm asking you to make that choice. I'm also asking you to hear how important dignity is to me. I really want a dignified end to this story. You know, you've been the author of my narrative for 12 years. You've had your hands around my neck effectively. And I want to be the author of how this ends. This is my life, not yours, mine. I just want to briefly explain about dignity and how important it is. And I want to touch a little bit on my late mother and late father. My late mother was a single mother of 3 who raised her 3 children on a part-time wage as an NHS receptionist. She wasn't a great parent, but she was a remarkable woman. She pushed through adverse circumstances in the 1980s, ensuring that her children got the best education possible, exposing them to arts and culture, theatre, and with a humanitarian heart, let them all find their own way. She was a dignified woman. And my late father too, not a great parent, but someone that contributed to our legal system as a circuit judge for all of his working life. Now, these values about dignity, resourcefulness, fairness, truth are values that I've been raised with. And they're values that I'm very, very proud to embody. It's therefore really, really important to me that I get a dignified end to this story. If this story ends in my suicide, me taking my own life, as I tried to do in February, whilst this isn't generically true for everybody, for me, there's a loss of dignity if I end my life. And the reason there's a loss of dignity is because the act of suicide involves harm to one's spirit, to one's self, to one's body. And that for me is where the loss of dignity is. You know, when I made this attempt recently to end my life, the 2 weeks leading up to it, I was so frightened, not of dying. I wanted to die. But I was frightened of the harm I might cause to myself. I was frightened of possibly having a heart attack, a stroke, losing respiratory problems. I didn't know what would happen. Now, thankfully, none of that happened. I just passed out. I don't even remember passing out. And I truly wish I'd gone, actually, because I've woken up to more aggression than I went to sleep with Tees, Esk and Wears Valleys Trust. I truly wish NHS Northumbria had just left me. But I'm still here. But if I make that option again to end my life, and it works, there may be some harm and there is a loss of dignity, and I don't want that. I want a dignified end to this story, and that's what I'm asking you to hear. I want to walk away with dignity. And if you won't yield and bring down this wall of yours that you've erected, then I'm asking somebody in the medical profession to come forward and write this report. There must be someone out there with some integrity, with a backbone, with some morality. There must be. And I'm long overdue to meet them. So I'm asking somebody to come forward. If you won't yield and give me the treatment and the diagnosis I need, then please come and write this report. And that's what I'm asking of you today. I just want to briefly turn my attention before I end this video to NHS England, the CQC, and to the Department of Health and Social Care. You know, I want to ask, what's gone wrong here? What's gone wrong with my case? How can so much misconduct have gone unregulated and unchecked for this long? And how can the defences in our system have failed on so many levels to catch this case, so that nobody's been able to wave a flag for me and blow a whistle? This is a question I'd like you to answer. What's gone wrong here? You know, one woman's story is potentially every woman's story and man's story. And I genuinely do not want anyone to go through what I have. My story raises serious patient safety concerns. And I really, 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 really don't want anyone to suffer like this. I urge you, Mr. Streeting, to make patient safety the top of our healthcare agenda, not in speak, not in conference, not as glossy words on a glossy flyer, but in reality, on the ground, patient safety in every hospital and GP practice. This will mean that patient safety and patient care will supersede clinicians protecting the reputation of their colleagues, duplicity, collusion, and most importantly, the end of the culture of silence. The culture of silence is so dangerous. You know, I want to see a healthcare system where patients aren't left without any mental health support after a suicide attempt. They're not turned away from A&E when they need mental health support. They're not discharged when they're suicidal. Hospitals don't delete scans because it inconveniently shows abnormalities that other trusts have missed. GPs aren't allowed to delete data from records and are caught immediately. Trusts aren't allowed to ignore abnormal scans when a patient is in undying pain. All of these incidents that I've recounted are not patient safety, they're patient danger. So I urge you to make patient safety the top of the agenda. We need avenues built into our NHS where NHS workers feel safe to speak up about patient safety concerns, where they're guaranteed no retribution and no job loss. You know, at my GP practice, all of the admin staff know it's the partner who's responsible for the tampering of my records. They all know that. But she's their boss, so they're not going to speak up. They'll lose their job. So instead, they're compromising my safety, doing what she wants, and tampering with my records to conceal my suicide risk. But if there was an avenue in the NHS where it was guaranteed people could keep their jobs if they spoke out, someone from my GP practice may have reported her by now. We need avenues built in where NHS workers are safe to speak up about patient safety concerns. We must tackle discrimination in healthcare. I have been denied treatment for my physical condition because of mental health discrimination, and it is terrifying. And I believe many other protected groups of the Equality Act, neurodivergent, autistic, HIV sufferers, Down syndromes, all of these protective groups, I believe they will also face discrimination and lack of access to healthcare. There are ways to tackle discrimination in healthcare. It's not enough to say in good medical practice, don't discriminate against someone. Everyone has stigma. I have it, you have it. It needs to be addressed with awareness trainings. If there was awareness trainings in every GP and hospital in the UK that was relational and had exercises where consultants and surgeons could reflect on their own stigma, become aware of it, things could change. Patient testimonies telling surgeons and consultants how it is to live with mental health issues and how frightening it is when we're denied access to care. These kind of relational exercises could inform gentle change. You know, one of the things I've talked about on my blog and on these videos is how shocked I am that so many doctors have not adhered to good medical practice. But unfortunately, with self-regulation of doctors, good medical practice stands as just a guideline. It can't be enforced. So if we continue to insist on self-regulation of doctors, then we need robust regulation of management, robust. Again, I believe if there had been that in place, someone would have caught this case by now and blown a whistle for me. NHS Lothian, if there'd been robust management regulation, they wouldn't have sent me that response telling me to go to NHS 5 pain management when they knew that they had refused to see me. Someone would have caught that and said, we can't send her that. We need management regulation. And lastly, doctors need to remember that saying sorry and putting things right does not make them liable for legal action. The professional duty of candour published by the General Medical Council clearly states this. You know, all patients want, like me, who have been harmed in healthcare, is for somebody to say sorry and put it right. We don't want money. We don't want retribution. I don't. Somebody could get me into a hospital tomorrow, onto a head and neck unit, do a fresh set of scans, and they could start treatment. They won't, because they don't want to admit failings of other trusts. But with such a all-encompassing and omnipotent litigation culture now, it has stifled doctors' abilities to just say sorry. You know, sorry isn't a dirty word. It's a word that repairs relationships. We all need to say it at some point in our lives. And all I'm seeking is somebody to just say, sorry, we've got this wrong, or try and put this right. If anybody has seen these videos of mine over the last 2 weeks, and you work in medicine, but have an interest in head and neck pathology, can you please reach out to me? You can reach me on info@myfacialpain.com or @myfacialpain on Twitter and TikTok. I would ask regulatory bodies to please reach out to me about the systemic issues I've experienced, particularly the falsifying of my records with my GP practice, the closing down of the safeguarding request by North Yorkshire County Council, and the urgent mental health support that I need that's been denied to me by Tees and Ware Valleys Trust. But as regards my medical situation, if there is anybody out there in the world that could help diagnose and treat my problem, please come forward. I will work with you for as long as it takes. And lastly, if nobody does come forward and that you choose to continue to push me away, I really would ask that someone comes and writes this report so that I can walk away. I simply am seeking closure to an absolutely heartbreaking, torturous 12 years. We all deserve that, surely, right? Everyone, every human deserves a little bit of dignity, a little bit of kindness, and a little bit of compassion. That's all I'm asking of you. I'm not asking you to roll out the red carpet for me. I'm simply asking for treatment and care. Thank you so much for watching my videos. If you've been watching them and listening, I so appreciate your time. My contact details will appear at the end of this video. Thank you again.